There's a popular saying that goes, health is wealth. So do make sure you always take proper care of your health. Welcome to another episode of Healthy Living. I am Lillian Ambi. Today we shall be discussing on the ethic views of contraceptives. As medical science advances, breakthroughs are recorded, and as such, solving human medical needs. One of such needs is the dire need to control conceptions, which is necessitated contraceptives. Today, I have a guest. He is a medical doctor who will be educating us on ethical views of contraceptives. You know, these days contraceptives, birth control, family planning has been a whole lot of issues. So today we shall be discussing and know more about it. And our guest, is Dr. Ejike Orji. Welcome to this show, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Leah.
Sir, in a nutshell, can you tell us about yourself in the practice as a professional?
Okay, like you said, my name is Dr. Ejike Orji. I'm the chairman the Association for the Advancement of Family Planning in Nigeria. I also double as the CSO focal point for FP 2020. FP 2020 is a global initiative that started in 2012. We are 69 poorest countries of the world were brought together to make sure that additional 120 million women and girls have family planning by the year 2020.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
There are virus pregnancy control measures today. Please, can you highlight some of them available medically?
Yes, in a broad definition, or should I say characterization, you have what we call the barrier method, you have the hormonal method, you have the permanent method, and the reversible. And any of these ones can be, like the barrier method is usually things like condom, and then you have the male condom, you have the female condom. And those are barrier methods. You also have occasionally when you can insert what we call the vaginal cap or the cervical cap, which also prevents spermatozoa getting into the uterus of a woman to make her pregnant. You also have spermicides, which are looked at as barrier method. The whole essence is to prevent spermatozoa swimming up to make the woman pregnant. Then you have the hormonal types, like I said. The hormonal types, you have the ones you take tablets every day, the daily pills, you take them every day. And then you also have the injectable ones. You have like Depo-Provera, you inject it to the woman and it lasts for between 3 to 5 months. Then you have also implants. The implants, they're implanted in the woman's forearm, so that anytime the woman wants to come back to contraception, they come back to being able to have a baby, they can be removed. Those are the hormonal. And then, of course, you also have the long-acting reversible, which is what I have mentioned, which includes inserting IUCD. IUCD is an intrauterine contraceptive device. You put it well into the uterus of the woman, the cavity, and the woman person might not be able to have a baby within 5 to 10 years. And then, of course, you have what we call the emergency contraception. And those emergency contraceptions are largely hormonal, or occasionally too, it could be put in an IUCD. And the emergency contraceptions are when women probably have an unprotected sex, and then you're not sure that you're not going to get pregnant. You take the tablet. Some of them can be effective up to 5 days after the woman has had the unprotected relationship with a man. But the important thing to also note is that one of the most individualized service in healthcare is family planning service. What is good for the goose might not be good for the gander. So that's why training providers who will provide the services are key, who will appropriately counsel a woman and then get a method that will fit the needs of that woman, so that woman can comply, and then also it won't have any deleterious effect on the woman.
Okay, so we know that some medicines, some drugs have side effects. So how reliable are these drugs? Because there are so many cases that the girls will be like, okay, they took a drug, they don't even know how they got pregnant. Like for the women that have given birth, you find out that some of them, after a short period of time, they've done the family planning, and you see that they'll be like, it's a mistake. they don't know. You find some of them menstruating while they are still pregnant. So how reliable are these contraceptives?
Yes, contraception is one of the most reliable things you can think of in medical history. In fact, taken properly, most of them are up to 99% effective. Remember that I started by saying that contraception or family planning services are individualized services.
Yeah.
Most of the failures you get to see are when women are not properly counseled and they don't strict to the instructions that they have been given on how to use that particular method. And there's a lot of myths and misconceptions about side effects. In fact, a recent study by the Gates Foundation found out that the major barrier from women taking up family planning services is this myth and misconceptions of side effects. Some are real, but majority are not. Let me give you a simple example. Any woman that is slightly overweight, it will be not be nice to give her a hormonal contraception or contraceptive method. The reason is that there's a tendency to retain water, and then that means the woman will grow bigger. And then if you have a history of a blood dyscrasia, that means your blood can bleed easily or you have problems with a blood disease, then you are advised not to use the hormonal type. So you use the other types, either the barrier or the intrauterine contraceptive device. But I can tell you that contraception, the myths and misconceptions of side effects are totally overblown. The last National Demographic Health Survey that just came out in May puts the rate of use of Nigerian women at 12%. In other words, for every 100 women in Nigeria, only 12 of them are using modern methods of making sure that they control their fertility. Yeah. So you can see the consequence. The consequence is we're in a crisis. There's a lot of the youthful bulge. Our population is largely youthful. 70% of our population is under the age of 30. Okay? And what this means is that we have a hugely dependent population. So there are few people who are working to support such a huge population. They are largely unemployed and they're largely unemployable. Oh. The second thing is that we have a lot of immigration going out because people are uncomfortable in the country, so they leave. The first set of people that live very easily, what we call the global citizens, professionals, doctors, engineers, lawyers, properly trained in Nigeria, they can get jobs anywhere in the world, so they immigrate. More than 20-something thousand Nigerians are in America alone, much more are in England. Just doctors. My class of 80, 75% of us are outside this country. You get the point. Now the second one is when unskilled labor is leaving also the country. See what's happening. A lot of Nigerians are coming back from Libya. They are being brought back from Libya after projects, the Freedom Project of CNN that uncovered modern day slavery in Libya. 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 44 migrants were killed in Libya after a bomb attack. 9 of them were Nigerians. For every 100 people that cross the tempestuous sea of the Mediterranean to go to mainland Europe from Libya, 14% of them are Nigerians. In 2006, on the invitation of the Norwegian government, for me to come and help them, be a part of the conversation for them to craft a strategy for Africa in issues of women's health and women's rights. As I sat down with the International Development Minister, he told me that every single day, 2006, every single day, 13 commercial sex workers come into their country from Nigeria. Wow. So that's high unskilled labor immigrating. But the last one that is making everybody uncomfortable now is when nationals start killing nationals. It started with OPC in the southwest, militancy in the Niger Delta, Bakassi and kidnapping in the southeast, a religious crisis on the plateau, Boko Haram in the northeast, banditry in the northwest, herdsmen, farmers clash all over the country. The driving thing is the absence of proper contraception. People were not planning their families. Now, why are people not planning their families? They don't have the wherewithal, they don't have information, they don't have the service. They didn't start today, they started 40 years ago. So these are the consequences of not having proper contraception in a country.
Okay, sir, as a medical doctor, and you've been in the line, and you've been like a chairman when it comes to the issue of this family planning issue. What have been done to do that, to create more awareness of the family planning?
What I'm doing with you now, I'm creating awareness. We've been working with the media. In my last job, I was the country director of an international organization called IPAS. We trained 500 journalists on issues of contraception. We are still working with journalists. Even today, I just came out from VON, the Voice of Nigeria, but 2 hours ago I was also making this sort of pitch. In the past 2 months, I've had about 15 media outings, 5 of them TV, the rest are radio, and then also newspaper tabloids. So we're spreading the message. We're making government understand. We're also working with the government. We were able to successfully advocate to governments in 2011 to put $3 million as counterpart support for buying commodities for the country. All right? When Buhari government came, they added another $1 million, making it $4 million. But unfortunately, this year, only $980-something thousand was raised. We are still looking at why did it happen. We're also trying to approach the governors because health is on the concurrent list. So that means the federal government cannot prescribe to the states what to do. But the government of the federation is doing quite a lot. They have policies, they have looked at the communication plan to reach women with information. They have made family planning services free in federal government facilities. We successfully advocated for that as an association. But what is going on at the states are not doing enough. You get the point? So we feel they should be able to provide some resources at their state level, ring-fence the resource so that it cannot be diverted to other things. So those are the kinds of things that we are doing. We already started engaging the Governors Forum.
Okay, so what about the illiterate? Okay, let me give you an instance. If you tour like from Nasarawa State coming to Abuja, you see the rates of beggars on the streets. Those women are illiterate, and I'm sure they don't have access to the media. And most of them, even if they have access, like the way we are talking, most of them won't understand what we are actually talking about.
Absolutely.
So for people like them, and you see them with 2, 3, 4 kids. So for people like them, and some of them don't give beds in the hospitals that will say, okay, they have the access that the doctor will be able to talk to them. They go through midwives. So I don't know, those people, how do you reach them? How do you publicize?
Yes, our association is also working with women groups. We work with National Council for Women's Societies. Okay. We work with the Medical Women Association of Nigeria. So we, through them, we do community level sensitization. And then those midwives also who take the deliveries are also counseling. Because our association is taking up the process of increasing what we call postpartum family planning. That's post-pregnancy family planning. Because it's a great opportunity when you see a woman that has come to a facility to deliver. Okay? It will be, I don't know how sacrilegious, if I use that word, very strong word, that you are not able to counsel that woman and make sure she goes away with a method when she would have had her baby. If you don't do that, you must catch her at the postnatal period when she's coming for check-in with her baby. You must make sure you counsel that woman and make sure she adopts a method of family planning. So we're doing all that. But you see, we as civil societies can do so much, but the real big mover is the government. And like I said, at the federal level, the federal government has done quite a lot. There are a lot of policies. There's a lot of there's communication strategy. In fact, anywhere you see the green dots, as a woman, if you're working there, family planning services are supposed to be free. And it's also part of the communication strategy. Okay, so but at the state level, they are not doing much. So our advocacy is now going down to the state level, and then also reaching the women directly because it's so key.
Okay, do stay tuned. We'll be right back after the break. In case you are just joining us, it's Healthy Living, and today we are talking with a doctor, and he knows so well about family planning, and he has been doing justice to the topic, which is ethics of contraceptives. Thank you, sir, and you've been doing justice, and I'm really, really learning.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. So many people take contraceptives as a means of birth control. Is there really a difference between contraceptives and birth control?
Well, birth control, if I use that, is like a service. All right? Birth control. The other way you can talk about is contraception. You know, and then birth control can be used in thought, I want to space my births, because we say there are 4 areas women get into trouble and die from pregnancy-related things.
Okay.
And birth control is a colloquial way of saying contraception too. So, for example, how do I control having a baby before I am age 18? Because also we have found out by research that 70% of women who die due to childbirth-related issues are below the age of 18. So if you want the girl to live, don't let her get pregnant before 18.
Okay.
But the National Demographic Health Survey research has also shown that the age of sexual debut in Nigeria is about 15. So between 15 and 18, 3 years of sexual activity, the only way she will not get pregnant is for her to use birth control. Okay? So you can call it family planning services, or you can call it contraception. Depends on the balance you want to use. In some climes, especially within the religious thing, they don't want to hear birth control. So what do you call it? You call it birth spacing. It's all about the narratives and then also the semantics or whatever you want to call it. And then it's also the same birth control or family planning service or contraception. You see how I'm interchangeably using it?
Yes, sir.
That you can also use to make sure that when a woman is going to start having her babies, she spaces them properly. In other words, your next baby must be at least 2 years older or younger than the previous one. Otherwise, the woman will get into trouble. The problem is that in Nigeria, nutrition is a big issue. So most women are just at the borderline of the amount of blood they should have. And pregnancy, you lose blood after each pregnancy. So when you have them too fast, what happens? The woman gets anemic. So she goes into the next pregnancy severely anemic. Any small bleeding will kill her. Yeah. You see the reason why birth control is important, or contraception is important, or family planning, or birth spacing services are important. All right? And then if a woman starts having her baby, you make sure you limit the number of children based on the resources available to you. And when I talk about resources, I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about support from your husband. I'm talking about the time you need to be able to give to those children to make them responsible citizens. All right? And then the other one too is birth control can save 30% of women who die annually. The 5th pregnancy can be more dangerous than the dangers of the other 4 pregnancies put together. The only way you can limit the number of children you have to number 4 is by contraception, birth control, birth spacing, family planning service. It's just about nomenclature, how you want to call it. But contraceptives is the drug you use to achieve birth control. You see the difference?
Okay.
Birth control is the service, but the drug you use to service is contraceptives.
Okay. So you'll be making mention of women. Is it only women that do family planning?
Of course not. But the reason why I mentioned men majorly family planning services is within the purview of the woman. And the reason why we also try to underline that no man dies because of failure of contraception. Does the man carry a baby?
No.
It's the woman that carries the baby. Nigeria is about the place you have the 2nd highest maternal mortality in the world. Second or third. Just about 5 countries contribute to 50% of all maternal deaths in the world. Nigeria is number 3. Okay? None of those people that died is a man. The only thing the man will do is he suffers the loss of a loved one, isn't it? So that's why we are making sure that women understand it's important to give women information, knowledge, skills, and ability to be able to make informed choices for themselves first. They have to be selfish around this. But we're also saying they have to collaborate with their men, negotiate with their men for them to know that they don't have to keep having babies. All right? For their own health, for their own enjoyment of life, because they need to enjoy those children they have produced.
But sir, let me cut you. There are some men that are so difficult. Let me give you an instance. When I was serving, I served in the East. And you know how the people from East, like the Igbos, the way they go about male child. Okay, there's this one, she's also a teacher where I was serving. So she had like 2 to 3 daughters. So she was like, she doesn't want, they were discussing in the staff room, which I got to hear, that she doesn't want to give birth again because those 4 ladies are okay for her. But her husband is the one that they should keep on trying until they give birth to a male child because he was the only male child in his family. So those kind of cases, how do you deal with them? And also there are some men that will be like, I'm the only child in my family. Why will you tell me that I want to restrict? I want to give birth to so many kids. So people like that, how do you deal with them?
You know, first of all, if there is a policy cannot just be policy within government circles. It could be the policy of an individual man. I want to have 7 children. That's my policy. I want to have a male child. That's my policy. The only thing that makes people change policy or make government change policy is new information. All right? When you get superior information to the information that you have, then that can lead to change of attitude and change of policy. So the key thing is advocacy. Not advocacy alone, but having proper education of the men, which is also what we're doing. We're not saying we're not going to be talking to the men, because you started talking about why is it only women that are doing contraception. Yes. We're not saying that. But if you look at the bulk of the contraceptive services, the one the men can do all times is wearing a condom.
So what about the single? We've been talking about the married. What about the single ladies? Some of them go to the chemist and they acquire those drugs themselves, like after the sex pills. What are those effects it has on them? Because some of them you find that after they get married, they'll be like, maybe it's at the effect of what they've been taking. Is there a space of time they need to be taking it, like maybe once in a month, maybe twice? I don't, for them, what are the remedies?
The morning after pills, which is the emergency contraception, that's the one you're talking about.
Yes.
Yes, by the rule, you can even see in the packet, it's advised that you do not take more than 2 or 3 in a month. The only thing often and all that thing causes is some bleeding afterwards, and then it can change your menstrual cycle. But in the real sense, once you stop taking the drugs, they disappear. There are no side effects in terms of making it impossible for the woman to have a baby in the future. Okay. Those are some of the myths and misconceptions that we're talking about. Okay? But lack of contraception can actually make a woman not have babies when she gets pregnant and goes for unsafe abortion. If that doesn't kill her, she can end up with obstructed tubes. And number 1 cause of infertility in the country right now is complications of unsafe abortion, because there was a failure of contraception. So the woman gets pregnant and goes to remove it from a quack, because the law does not allow free, safe abortions. So she goes to a quack, and then the quack messes her up. So it's the same thing here.
So what about those? Some people tell you that maybe a specific dose doesn't work for them. There are some people like that. They tell that they take those people. Is it safe for them, for those that take not the prescribed? Because actually, when you go, I don't think most of them someone the courage to go to the hospital to tell a doctor, like a young lady that is not a married star, this is what I've done, I need. Some of them won't do that. They just go to the chemist and they'll be like, okay, this time it did not work for me, I got pregnant. So I don't think this specific dose works for me. For those that take extra dose.
Yeah, every drug has a limit. Like I said, most of the things that we see is bleeding. The person would have in between menstrual bleeding, and then some of them can be quite severe if it's taking so many over a thing. But once it stops, the bleeding stops also. Okay, the only thing is that it might change the woman's cycle, menstrual cycle, but it will not stop her from having a baby. But the most important thing, talking about young people, unmarried young people, that is the biggest problem we have in the country. Because most family planning services are patterned to married women. Most providers they have what we call provider bias. When a young woman comes unmarried, they'll be looking at her. Your father sent you to school. Instead of going to school, you're looking for a man. And then, but you see, that's also where educating the providers that if you look at the research that has been done, shows that the age of sexual debut is 15. So majority of the young adolescents out there, especially in the southern part of the country, are unmarried. In the northern part, by age 15, 16, 17, a lot of young women are already in married union. Okay, so they can be taken care of by the services that are available for married women. But we are saying targeting the adolescents that are not married is the major plank of making sure people or women don't die from complications of abortion.
Oh, so your final advice to those out there that really think there's a complication when it comes to taking contraceptives or family planning, some are scared of doing it, your advice to them?
My advice to them, first of all, that most of the complication people talk about is myths. It's a myth. It's a misconception. Yes, there are side effects, but they are so far on, should I say, the percentage is so small compared to the way it is blown out of proportion. But the basic thing is that if they want to use family planning service, they must go to a doctor or a nurse for them to be properly counseled. And we are making the environment more enabling so that young people that are married can actually walk in. So far as you see the green dots, family planning services are available and it's free. But a doctor or a nurse will counsel you and get the best method, and they will advise you on what to use.
Thank you very much, sir, for coming to the
show
today. Our guests have done justice to it. Our guest again is Dr. Ejike Orji. Thanks for staying tuned, and make sure you join us next time and watch us on all our social media platforms. I still remain Lillian Ambi.